And I've had to slow right down, keep them talking. Try.
They don't want regulations.
That's.
There is a how that is.
And then last night, the lady had to stop. Try to make the other people around.
Fine, they are the street is very disturbing.
Well, we don't hear
Programs.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a couple of days, they find out here.
What's up, Alex?
Hey, Jojo.
Yes.
Having technical difficulties, so you get the extreme close up here.
Oh, yeah. I see. Boy,
And it's basically where you keep tracks, it's gonna hurt, you know. So it's- A lot of those representatives are smaller towns, Papa Bluff is a big one, pushing, right? Thanks.
What's that?
Papa Bluff,
What are they doing?
that House bill on rental properties and stuff, asking. The building is the one that wrote it.
Party?
Yep.
You know why?
You might be like children. Why? Very nice.
Beneficial to landlords?
Oh, very much so. There is no oversight on cities anymore, building the bill.
He's
Do something.
I'm sure he's coming from there. It's a Butler County land.
Oh, I know it is. Well, 11 of them getting passed that you're in Baker chapter. So I'm gonna call Jordan and a couple others I know. I said, really, Jordan, you wrote this? So I'm calling them. So it's gonna hurt us. if it passes. I just got that yesterday. And Billy said, yeah, but I was on it. And I'm gonna solve it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with introductions. I'm Jeremy Tam, Southeast Missouri Regional Planning Commission. Mayor Jackson.
Matt Winter, City Minister.
Brian Sherwood, City Gift.
Carrie Short, City Board.
You'll need to unlock your phone this time.
Drew
After,
Fisher,
you can change your Gemini settings.
Corbin Grove, MoDOT. Bill Kelly on MoDOT.
Chance Collier, KLG Engineering. Stacy Kinder, Mayor, Gerardo.
Trevor Pulley, City Cable.
Alex McElroy, SEMPO staff. And online, we have Jojo Stewart, I'm assuming Michael Brandon and Tom Caldwell.
Right. Let's take a motion to adopt the agenda for the meeting. Motion from Mayor Haas,
Second.
second from Mayor Kinder, all in favor?
Aye.
So, done. The approval of the minutes of the January 15th meeting that were previously emailed out to everyone. They are in your packet today. Got a chance to review those. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion from Mayor Kinder. Second. Second, Ms. Winters, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I have no communications today. Any public comments? Hearing none, we will move on to new and unfinished business. Item A, the 2024-2027 Transportation Improvement Plan Amendment number 6.
We have our resolution as your handout and also the one-page tip amendment. This tip amendment is just, it was left out of the major first amendment we had done several months ago, which actually had 35 amendments inside it. So it's not too bad that only one was missed on that one. The amendment is under the category of taking care of the system. It is for drainage upgrades from Route K to Bloomfield Road and from County Road 434 to exit 105. If you look at the amendment, they propose to do, it looks like a lot of project scoping, planning, design, and 25 to 27 with construction happening in future years. Total project cost of 1.8 billion. The Technical Planning Committee released the amendment for public comment back in February, and no comments were received.
So we have resolution number 2025-3. Take a motion to approve that resolution.
Second.
Motion from Mayor Haas, second from Mayor Kinder, all in favor? Any opposed? Resolution passes. Next, we have our FY 2026 Unified Planning Program update. Project programming discussion.
So we started with the technical planning committee on developing our work plans for FY 26 back in January. In February, I asked the TPC to finalize their recommendation to the board. And then weather hit, of course, we didn't have a board meeting. So I took the technical planning committee's recommendation. I built out a draft UPWP for FY 26. I sent that on to our state and federal partners for comment. And I shared with our TPC and our state and federal partners that I would give the final approval of the projects that were selected from the planning committee by the board this month, and then have the plan approved or considered for approval next month in April. So we have a one pager that's front and back, might look a little familiar, have the SEMPO logo on the top of it. The front side is what the technical planning committee recommended programming for FY 26. The back includes some other projects that were contemplated by the group, but the front ultimately is what they recommend. Recommendation includes, of course, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. That is a FY 25 carryover, which we knew we would be doing. We started that process back in October, and now we're underway with it. So we knew that it would come over into this fiscal year to allow us plenty of time to make sure that plan doesn't expire before a new one is enacted. We also propose a transportation improvement program update. This is something that we had updated once every 4 years, but through recommendations from MoDOT, they had encouraged us to adopt an every 2-year update for the TIP. We were going to start that last year, but with our software conversion of the new TIP tool, we opted to hold off for 1 year. So they've now programmed it and prioritized it for FY 26 to then begin our every 2-year update cycle. We also have our general service agreements. Back in 2021, we signed 5 different GSAs with different consultants for different planning projects on an as-needed basis. This is not a financial commitment. This is a vehicle in which, if there are lower hanging fruit projects that don't necessitate a request for proposal, this is something that we can issue task orders, because these consultants have already been vetted by our planning committee and our board of directors as being qualified to be able to perform these tasks. So those will expire in October 26. This is not a budget item, it's just a work item, so you won't find it in our draft UPWP, but it is a project that we'll have to work on this year. And then the final recommendation, I had shared with them, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan is the largest plan that we undertake. It is federally required that we do it. It's a 20-year visioning of all modes of transportation in our planning area. And our TIP amendment also comes with a decent budget number. So those two, along with the GSAs and continuing maintenance of our TIP tool software, would have been enough for the fiscal year, but I wanted to see if we could fit one more planning project in. And that's when we ultimately prioritized the transit system planning. So I have one final handout in case folks are interested in what that entails. This is the stapled one. It's titled Transit System Planning right at the top. So we landed on this one ultimately because in discussions with our CTA, most folks may know that they are currently working on a partnership with SEMPO University on taking over the transit services that they currently conduct. So what that partnership will ultimately end up looking like is still being worked out amongst the agencies, but that's something that they're undertaking currently. The CTA is also experiencing an increase in ridership. They've reported a 35% ridership increase from 2023 to 2024. So they are effectively rebounding from their COVID numbers, which made their ridership drop quite significantly for a short period of time. Previously, we had attempted to help out the CTA with budgeting under unfunded needs scenarios, funding assistance for their new facility. During that time, they were looking to transition from their facility on Broadway to another location. So we had earmarked some funds as they became available to be able to provide to the CTA. They were able to secure a facility without the extra funding assistance from us. But now is a time when they really could use some additional planning resources. So we earmarked a project where we would undergo transit system planning. And what I provided in this handout here is just an example of all the different focus areas the transit system plan can focus on. So it's quite broad. I would work with Jenny Smith at the CTA to really refine what is going to be the most beneficial for them in terms of future planning, and then put out an RFP in coordination with them and get a consultant here to help them with some of their more dire needs in the immediate future. So that's the breadth of what the federal and state partners are reviewing right now with all our budget tables and everything we need to submit. But I wanted to get the final okay from the board that this list of projects are what you would like to prioritize for FY26.
I guess I said the same thing last year. I thought the multimodal freight project was an important thing. We're working on that SEMPO ready. We're working with Procter and Gamble and all other manufacturers here to understand our freight issues that we have in this area and the cost of freight. And I guess I need to understand why that can't be part of it, or does it have to be replaced if we did do it? But I think that's an important to understand freight in our area with our interstate system, with our major manufacturers that we're working with, and that it's a major project in SEMO ready to study and understand our freight situations. And certainly, Jackson is a major issue with us with just the sand trucks that come through every day and understanding what their plans are for the next year. So I guess a disappointment that the freight plan doesn't make this cut again this year.
We would have the planning funds to add an additional plan. Part of the concern and hesitation is the overall workload with that number of consultants working on different projects. We also run into public engagement fatigue when we have too many initiatives going in one fiscal year.
Alex, would the FTP, would that lay the groundwork for a freight plan?
It certainly would, as in it's a focus area as a mode of transportation. It was with our last metropolitan transportation plan.
I'm wondering if we could just capture some inputs, early input related to freight as part of that process, which would then inform a freight.
Yeah, that certainly will be a component of the MTP. Yeah.
What happens now? Will we vote on this sometime in the future, or what do we, how does it become?
I will need approval of these projects this month because I'll be asking the board to approve the draft work plan in April. That way we can get city council approval of our consolidated planning grant agreement at their council meeting around May timeframe, and then get it off to OneDOT federal partners.
I didn't know, because I'll vote no without. I didn't know, I didn't see a vote, just a discussion. So
Yeah, this one was more of a verbal. It didn't have to be a formal. The formal will take place between a few of our UPWP next month. But you can make the motion to swap out or add a freight plan.
I think the motion not add multimodal freight plan, at least in the evaluation.
Did you have a scope or a budget in mind for that?
Do not, I'm not sure what this one that you've listed is.
The transit system planning,
The multimodal freight plan.
multimodal freight plan?
That's the one I'm referring to that's not on the list. That you did make.
Typically with larger planning initiatives like that, they always end up being around 100,000. Depending on how much community engagement and work hours kind of add to the scope of it.
Alex, you have to have decisions today.
I would like a board consensus, yeah, the final decision will ultimately come next month, but I'll need to be able to include in our work plan narrative descriptions, budget figures for everything that the board selects as projects. So currently, that's not in what state and federal partners review.
We've got the transit system planning. Do we have a write-up like you did with transit system planning on the multimodal?
I know when I pitched it 2 years ago, we did, but there wasn't as much discussion this year, so I didn't spend a lot of time with the write-up.
Are these, numbers 5 through 9, are they listed as potential projects because of funding concerns? Or,
Oh, that, these were just additional projects I put together. Sometimes when we start the planning process, I'll ask, what projects would people like to see?
Sure.
And there isn't the most robust conversation, so I try to provide a lot of different examples of what we could do. And then they kind of vet it from there. Sometimes people throw out additional projects like those intersection studies with something that the group had come up with on their own that they want to see happen.
Capacity issue with adding to the plan.
It would increase our budget for the year, so we could be taking probably about another 100,000 from our consolidated planning reserves that we kind of carry. That we could afford it. Concerns come with workload and project delivery. This is the year, because we have our metropolitan transportation plan in there, that's a $150,000 item. So it would be adding probably close to 200,000 with transit system planning to a somewhat already expensive fiscal year.
So coming in, can next month we look at a write-up on this and look at our total budget, we'll make a decision on adding or not?
No, only because I could probably give you something prior to that. But I need to have our plan approved by the board next month. So the plan has to be written for you to approve it. And if you approve a project next month, I need to be able to then put it in the plan.
So did you make a motion?
I made a motion to add the multimodal trip.
I'll second the motion. So we do have a motion on the floor to add the multimodal freight plan study to the work plan. Motion by Mayor Haas, seconded by Mr. Winters. Is there any more discussion?
And all out, I mean, next month, we can look at the detail if you really think it's wrong, to be able to go back and look at, I mean, it's kind of late that we get this now, and certainly last year I talked about this.
Yeah, well, we did miss a meeting last month due to weather. We did start it in plenty of time, and it's just the miss of that meeting, and I hadn't really heard any desire for any additional projects from the board or the TBC.
Do you think adding another plan is gonna water down all up? Or are we gonna be able to take care of all the plans we have once, but we don't? So you got, I mean, it's gonna water down all the plans we had now. For the manpower and all sets in 1 year.
It's a lot to spread out. I'm the sole staff member of
I know you
SEMPO.
are. That's why I'm asking, I know this will work.
Right.
Is it possible to to push the transit system plan for a year and move multiple up?
That's what I was kind of contemplating proposing, one thing we could do is swap just the title of the plan from transit system planning to multimodal freight. I've left enough funding in there where that could probably be accomplished. And then, reevaluate it as the fiscal year goes on. And we can always look to amend and add a project. We feel timing is best for the transit system plan.
I have concerns about, given that in the city of Cape, this transit system issue has been really discussed for involving multiple agencies. I think even the chamber has done some work involving, you know, accessibility in terms of being able to get jobs. It's a pretty wide impact issue here in Cape.
And I will share, the city of Cape Girardeau is working on developing a community development block grant program. We started a lot of community outreach with stakeholders and the general public, and transit is an area that we've been here a lot. We've improved the train.
My other concern is that Alex is the sole person that's gonna do this. He is out of the city hall office. I know what his workload is daily. We add another to this, I'm afraid it's gonna water it down. He's not gonna be able to do an excellent job of all these programs. 'Cause I see what he does daily. And that's why I asked, is it gonna water everything down? Because I know his caseload, I know what he does, and I know city staff also asks Alex to do other stuff for them. So I hate adding more and more and more to them, unless you give me another person.
Funding available for a part-time person to help with the
We still have a motion on the floor. So I guess we need to call for a vote for that motion.
Just one last question. Numbers 1, 2, and 3, those are absolutely required for this coming year. There's no, yeah.
1 and 2 are federally required. 3 is required because our contracts are expiring.
Right.
And that's a tool we use to help lighten workload with unnecessary RFPs, project time delays. And we do not use the general service agreements for large planning initiatives. We use them for lower level projects. An example would be our intersection studies that we had 26,000 for 2. Because we had guessed 13,000 for each study. That was issued through a task order.
So how many general service agreements do you have?
We have 5 under contract currently.
5?
I think we've only used 3, so.
Motion is to add that to be able to see it for the April meeting, not necessarily.
I'd like to see a write-up on it and the cost, the total cost of all these programs up to a budget, you know. But my motion was, yeah. The discussion point was, I don't think we have enough information to truly possibly do that.
Here's the current budget as it exists right now with our federal partners and state planning partners haven't reviewed it.
So for the motion on the floor, I need a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Motion was,
the motion was to add the multiple equipment to the work program, see the details and the budget, and everything, and have it in there report at the April meeting.
is that to include the transit system plan or
Yeah,
replace?
let's add.
while we're on the subject, I will talk about it later, but how, and what might be right, how confident are, what is the status of the front of this in the federal government, the cuts that the federal government is making now?
So I have attended, AMPO conferences, with other executive directors within AMPO leadership. They met with, leadership in DC. There's not a great consensus of the direction in which they're really going with transportation funding. I can share that the AMPO executive director felt pretty confident that they weren't targeting planning funds at this time. He said the conversations they've had with the transportation secretary have mostly revolved around how can we help you? How can we make things more efficient? But there are a lot of executive directors out there with a lot of unknowns that are developing contingency plans if planning funds are significantly reduced or eliminated.
And I've had some of the same discussions with people in New York, and I was wondering, they were going down that line of a contingency plan. Because, in my view, certainly don't want to lose the function of this group to help MoDOT prioritize. We may let a lot of other things go if they do cuts, such as programs that we just reviewed, because they just may not be funding. There may not be a SEMPO going forward. And I'm glad you're having those discussions so that we just are informed, as much as we can to understand that.
And just for the board's edification, we do have somewhat of a contingency plan. We've operated on carryover balances. We've made an internal rule of keeping at least 2 years of funding in contingency and reserve. That way, mostly we've held it because we get hit with large federal requirements like updating our metropolitan transportation plan. And it's difficult to do much of anything else because that eats up the majority of the planning funds that we get. So with the reserves that we have, we've been able to accomplish things like our metropolitan transportation plan and still do another transportation planning project that fiscal year because we have the reserves.
Those reserves may be more adequate if we don't have to do the federal requirements. If those go away, yeah. But let's us operate. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Lynn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So next we'll move on to the metropolitan transportation plan update.
As a refresher, since we didn't meet last month and folks have slept a few days since then, we started this project in October when we put out RFP. We vetted the responses in November and the board authorized negotiating a contract with CBB in December. That was finalized in late December. I onboarded our new consultants in January, and in February, our planning committee received a project kickoff with our new consultants. They came into town to conduct that. Right now, the handouts I have show the presentation that was provided to our planning committee, and then also a project progress report update. During the kickoff meeting, they discussed again the purpose of the plan and being a 20-year look into the future of all modes of transportation in our planning area. They gave a refresher on what the project scope would be, what current goals are in our active MTP, and also discussed what the financial plan means versus the illustrative list of projects. And then they shared their timeline with projects starting in February with the kickoff and then ending in November of this year, 2025. So about a 10-month process to develop our MTP. The project approach is they have it broken down into 6 different tasks. One being, the first being the kickoff meeting and project management. Then they'll move into community and stakeholder engagement. Then existing conditions review, and they'll do a needs assessment for all of our transportation systems. They'll develop a potential list of projects. Then they'll work on the 2 financial plans, and then move into the draft plan and final plan development. But right now, they're still working on collecting a lot of our existing plans and reviewing those to make sure they're comfortable with their subject matter knowledge of the area.
Alex?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the freight plan be part of this?
It is to a degree. It doesn't go near to the level that when you invest a lot more resources into one mode of transportation. That
One specific study,
One
very
specific
detailed study.
Yeah. So it will touch on and overlap a bit with our metropolitan transportation plan.
Yeah, the specific freight plan.
Yes.
Typically, MoDOT has always done freight plans separate from their long-range plan, which is kind of equal to the metropolitan transportation plan. But this time around, we are actually on, Alex, if you remember, at the Statewide Planning Department meeting last month. This year, we're going to do both at the same time, kind of concurrently. But it is kind of a large ask of any one consultant to go ahead and try to put all that information together at the same time. So even if they were done consecutively, it'd be better than trying to do both at the same time, probably. And maybe that works out for this group, but it is something that we are doing now at the same time, probably with the same consultant, but it is a pretty large difference in the focus.
You're doing a long-term plan,
Yes.
that also includes the freight.
So,
issue,
well, we're
but-
doing, it's 2 separate plans. There's a state freight rail plan and the long-range transportation plan, which is, the long-range transportation plan is equal in scope to the metropolitan transportation plan.
Yeah.
So there are 2 separate documents, 2 separate public engagement criteria and different, with your regular metropolitan transportation plan, you're looking at vehicular traffic and not so much your freight traffic. And those are different sets of needs that need to be really given their just due, as the mayor's indicated.
Sure.
That you want to reach out to those stakeholders and really focus on that.
Is this SEMPO region freight plan concept part of your ODOT freight plan?
It isn't for our purposes. They may use some language to say that it incorporates it by language, but typically it isn't, because from our perspective, we're looking at the state system, interstates and state system. Whereas with the MPO, I'm expecting a more local focus and not just, I know at one point there was an issue with City of Jackson where they had all the sand trucks were cutting across on East Main, West Main, right through the middle of town. And there was the idea that, hey, we should try to keep that traffic off of our local streets where you have your residential areas. So I expect a different focus on the local scale than what we have from the statewide network.
Well, I think, and Dwayne, I think you could probably speak to this much better than I can, but from what I've heard, that this more localized freight plan really extends far beyond city of Cape and even the SPO region. I guess I'm wondering now at this point why it isn't. Why it isn't on the MoDOT's radar.
Well, I suppose that we could, but keep in mind that if we did that, we're also looking at one MPO out of 19 in the state. So that we would basically need to try to incorporate the local data from all of them, and maybe not all of them have actually done.
Yeah, well, and we haven't either, I think that's
So-
the point, right?
So I think it's good to maybe keep that in mind and maybe incorporate some facets of that as we go through the process. I think that we will probably have ours complete first. But that doesn't mean that when we go to renew it in 5 to 10 years, that we don't take a look and see what other locals come up with. Is there something maybe we missed that we could incorporate? It's just as an opportunity to make ours better. And I think vice versa. If the MPO or the MPO's consultant wanted to look at what MoDOT's current state freight rail plan is, that is available out there on our website and can be utilized for, if nothing else, just concepts, some different things to look at.
Alex, the MTP will have about, I guess we'll have a similar scale look at both freight and transit, right? And they'll both be incorporated into the MTP at kind of similar levels, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. The MTP really is the umbrella plan for the organization. It's meant to touch all modes of transportation, not necessarily huge deep dives into each mode. And to your point, by proxy, it says, refer to the much more detailed plan that you put more resources.
Any more discussion on the update? Move on to the SEMPO Regional Trail Connection Study.
Okay, so Planning Design Studios, our consultant for the project, provided our planning committee an update earlier this month. Currently, they're working on the draft plan, but their update, they provided a presentation which included a summary of all the feedback we received from the 4 open houses that we conducted. They gave a refresher on the 3 trail alignments and their analysis, as well as the public sentiment. Their analysis included a matrix of pros and cons for each alignment. And then they discussed next steps, which is the final draft report, which is anticipated next month. You'll have more to look at next month for that one.
Alex, I have a question.
Yeah.
Forgive me if this has been discussed before, but, can you talk to us about where the funding comes from this, and then funding for the maintenance ongoing?
Funding for the eventual construction or
Yeah.
funding for the plan development?
Well, maybe both, and then future.
Yeah, so for the plan development, it's being funded through the PL funds, planning funds that we receive as an organization through the federal government. We also are receiving unused planning funds from Illinois. They had a number of MPOs that had large carryover balances, and Illinois has less of a threshold for carryover PL funds than the state of Missouri does. So instead of handing those back to the federal government, they are redistributing them to MPOs that could use them. We were presented the opportunity to participate in that and receive more funds, so the board opted to go through the process. There were various agreements we had to go through with the Illinois Department of Transportation to get the additional funds. We were able to secure those, and we dedicate those toward trail connection.
So that will go toward the construction.
No, that's
You
just
talk
for
about
the
plan.
plan development. Yeah, the plan development, we as an organization will never receive construction funds for any of our projects because we're a smaller MPO. The threshold they put MPOs is 200,000 in an urbanized area. 200,000 above is considered what they call a TMA, which they do actually receive construction funds. So they can plan certain projects and dedicate certain construction funds for us because we're smaller, we're around the 50,000 threshold, just above it. We only receive the PL planning fund.
So this then ultimately would go to the city of Jackson, the city of Cape to find
It could
funding
be
for.
individual, it could be a future grant program that allows for multi-jurisdiction projects. That's really how we've leveraged a lot of our planning initiatives in the past. A good example is our regional bike and pedestrian plan. Both communities have used that plan in transportation alternative project grant applications and been rather successful. Because in developing those plans, you evidence a lot of public engagement, public sentiment for different projects, and you're able to communicate that a lot better to the people who are doing your grant application.
TBD.
So we need to find the funding source for the construction. Yes. Which was something that we, in all of the open houses and public engagements that we've done, we've tried to communicate to folks, not to get too much expectation built up, that the next step is obviously constructing it. It's finding funding sources to be able to construct what the public said they would prefer.
And maintain.
And
Into
maintain.
the future.
Yes.
Yes. Any other questions and comments on the trail commission stuff? Okay, we'll move into our member reports. Over to City Kate.
Please provide me with more context.
Well, give me a minute.
For example, are you interested in membership reports for an organization, e.g. number of members, demographics, and activity levels?
I would just, I would just say, coming up on April 8th, we have our municipal election and our TTF 7 initiative is on that, so it's very important. Election day for our street situation here in Cageburg.
Yes, we've gotten out over and be part of the South Spring Fair a little bit. This is been going on 30 years. We're hoping it continues. Currently, we're still back on Lexington, redoing sidewalk to sidewalk. We just did a pre-bid on our asphalt maintenance today. 2 companies came in for that. We're excited about seeing what kind of bids coming in for that. We just closed South Spring Monday to it's a TTF 6 project to redo its sidewalk. And part of the TTF 7 is a small section of South Spring that will be done. That is also important because we're going to see most of it come online in the next month or a month and a half to start closing it. That's going to be a TTF 5 project. North Spring, it's going to be very difficult to drive the kids road this summer. We have a lot of roads closed, a lot of different contracts being given out. So I don't know if MoDOT's got any repairs in the city of Cave, but it's going to be difficult to drive. The TAP grant sidewalks moving forward on Cave Rock. It's still going forward without. Just got a lot of street repair. The asphalt plants come online. There'll be doing a lot of different stuff on asphalt. And the concrete bid, I think, goes pretty good on our concrete this next week. That's what I have.
Thank you much. St. Jackson.
Give you a couple sentences. See what probably and back with that too. I guess certainly key projects. We're working with MoDOT on the Deerwood roundabout, and I think proceeding on so that we can hopefully get that out for bids as soon as possible. Same is true on the street lights in East Jackson Boulevard that that agreement with MoDOT we're working on. To move that forward, we might certainly are waiting to get that out for bid as well. I think our bridge on Sunset, that grant is come through, so we're proceeding on to getting some good on that, as well as our sidewalk on East Main, which was a grant program with MoDOT as well. Highway 61 is open and things are working well. It looks great. And everybody's pleased about that opening. So that's the key ones I had.
Just want to say a big thank you to MoDOT. We have the transmission lines down on Jackson Boulevard this weekend. That's part of the pitched in to help all the super guys. Thanks. We had a lot of that all across the area. Very good to participate. Mayor, I just added that, you mentioned the, MoDOT Pro project for Sunset Drive bridge replacement. That is officially out of bed as of today. 3 bids on April 8th, which are due on April 8th. You also mentioned the, MoDOT cost share roundabout 61 and Deerwood. As soon as I get back to the office, I'm turning in to MoDOT, right-of-way clearance certification, plan specs, and engineering certification, and this whole status letter, so we can keep that rolling. We've also approved an engineering services contract with Smith and Company for the Jackson Middle School crosswalk and sidewalk project. That's MoDOT TAP. So we are underway with design work. We'll be doing a kickoff meeting with Joel Smith and all that. So then my last thing was staff preparing our maps and PSV for our concrete asphalt programs this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Seymour Court.
As I said last meeting, we did award the contract to pave the parking lot and driveway. Phone loader had been working the last month and a half or so, month, I guess. And quite a bit complete, which I would anticipate done probably in 4 to 6 weeks.
Cape Airport.
Well, we had some significant damage to one of our hangars and a couple of the aircraft with the storm. We do have one hangar that's on demolition out to bid. That should be done in April, and then as soon as it gets demolished, we are scheduled to build a new one. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Drew, you got anything with RPC?
Just something to look at for the updates to the tip based on MoDOT's new projects that will be coming up soon. And then, as we discussed earlier, the full update, not just the projects, but the narrative or tip document as well.
Federal Highway, Cecily, do you have anything to share?
Nothing to share this time, but hopefully next time.
Tom, how about IDOT?
Well, I was going to defer to Cicely with all the FHWA activity of late, but next month we'll know more about a lot of stuff. Other than planning funds, from what we know, or any obligated agreements or sound. So it's not as urgent or as possibly damaging that might have been. So that's I think we're in good shape.
Thank you. ODOT.
Yes, we've got the Emerson Bridge starting up later this year. We'll close down one lane both ways. That's a $16.5 million job. Regarding the Jackson Lighting Agreement, internally, we are finalizing that agreement to send over. Route 177 job up by P&G going south into Cape Girardeau. That work has started. MoDOT has closed down part of Route Y Cape Girardeau for bridge replacement. Closed down a couple of days ago, I think Monday. Over at exit 95, everybody probably see the light signals going up, being constructed there, the exit 95 by 55. And there is a mill fill overlay on Route 72, starting at County Road 335 and going to that intersection of the railroad track to the heart of Jackson. We're looking at putting concrete at that intersection to deal with the sand trucks. So that may be a weekend job sometime in July or June. I'm not really sure what the exact date is, but it will not be asphalt. It will be likely to be 8-inch or thicker concrete. Also, one last thing, our direction for the next few months is going to be windshield issues for the director of MoDOT. So we're going to try to deal with the litter problem more heavily moving forward for the
next few months.
I have a lot blowing around right now.
The winter storms have caused a lack of time for that, because they were dealing with snow.
I was going to be bringing this up under other business, just, I mean, honestly, right now, it's terrible, but assuming it's not gonna blow out of our area completely, just was interested in knowing, I mean, we've had conversations, before, a number of years since I've been on the city council, just trying to figure out, I understand clearly that it's all just a money issue, getting people to do the work of the litter pickup, the mowing, street sweeping, whatever. The I-55 corridor obviously is a huge, piece of property, and it's just always, full of trash, and it reflects on the city of Cape. So what, can you just talk a little bit more about what, I mean, it's recognized at the highest levels that that's a problem? Is there more money being directed to that?
There is legislation that's been put forward for 250 additional maintenance workers within MoDOT. But that's going to be debated and fought in the House and the Senate. The direction right now is to shift focus into the windshield issues. That means picking up animals outside the road, dealing with trash.
Gotcha.
There are other programs that I'm currently investigating that the urban environments like St. Louis and Kansas City have engaged in to try to deal with this. So as I learn more, I can work with you and discuss that with you for more urban areas like St. Francis County or Cape Girardeau County.
That would be great. I can just tell you, it's like clockwork, you know, everyone else on city council and city staff, we start getting a lot of complaints by people, that we sometimes end up with 4-foot tall weeds, you know.
Yeah. It's not just getting Girardeau, it's taken by.
Sure, no, I understand. Anyway, that's great to hear, and we'll talk more. Thank you.
So we have finished entering all the projects in for the next STIP. That'll be the 2026 through 2030 STIP. And right now, central office is going through and doing their final reviews and sending us items almost on the daily about things we need to look at, maybe correct, or get some clarification on. So we're taking care of those things. Should be done with that at the end of this week, certainly by the end of the month. That means that in April, that'll be going to our executive team, and they will review, and then we will end up, I think I stated earlier, we'll have the draft STIP will be released the first week of May. And that will open up a 30-day public comment period. And then anticipate in July, then the Highway Commission would approve the STIP. The other item is high priority unfunded needs list. We're about to ramp that back up to do the next cycle of that. So we'll be reaching back out to the RPCs and the MPO to get their input for that. And obviously you'll have the new STIP projects by that time, so you'll know what projects are going to be going in there. So we'll be able to kind of work through that issue, make sure we don't have anything doubled up. And that will lead us into the summer. Let me, one other item, Mayor, to your point about the road signs that obviously are a concern. And especially with this last weekend where we have friends whose fence ended up on the other side of the highway. It's just unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way that it is. We are beginning to, I saw an opening come up our internal email. We have in the past, we have utilized incarceration crews to get out and kind of help with manpower, if you will, just helping to kind of help clean up some stuff. And there is a push, I think now that it's kind of been tamped down really for the last couple of years due to COVID and just really kind of the aftermath of that it's been really, really quiet. But I saw an opening come up for that. So I think we probably will begin to see more. I don't know how long it takes to actually see effectively in our area here in Cape, but it is going to be a focus, and we will do things And obviously, we would, accept any phone calls if you have questions about a certain area or something you consider to be particularly dangerous, not just an eyesore, but dangerous. We would like to know about that, and you feel free to reach out to Corbin.
On that note of the incarcerated crews, I have reached out to some of the local correctional facilities. And I've been told that the reason that our incarcerated crew numbers have reduced in the last few years is just that the quality of criminal that's currently being housed has gone down. They're not following the rules like they used to. Just, they're not as good as they used to be. It's what I've been told.
I was actually addressed today by the Planners Parking Committee a little bit, and they said that a lot of those crews used to be made up of nonviolent offenders, most of which were in for marijuana possession charges. Now that marijuana is legal, those individuals are no longer incarcerated. So
Those were the higher quality.
those were
criminals.
They were more relaxed.
yes. All right, anything else? If I have any other questions for Moda? Okay, Alex, staff report.
Nothing additional.
Nothing additional from Alex. Anyone have any other business or communications they'd like to share? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Kinder, second by Mayor Haas, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Oh, I saw that, thank you.
Thank you. So long.
Oh, Howard's got my number.
Sure. Yeah.
You know that stuff.
I wouldn't know. I'd be careful about sharing that. Not just all the stuff.